Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences per year for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Dan Uyemura, CEO and founder of PushPress. PushPress provides robust, simple, and elegant recurring billing and membership management solutions. Dan, how are you? Welcome to the Wexer pod.
I'm great. I always love listening to people stumble over my last name. So you did pretty good, man. You did pretty good.
Did I try?
Yeah. I give that a solid, without asking me ahead of time. He did not ask. Most people ask me ahead of time. He didn't. And I give you a 9 out of 10 on that. That's pretty close.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I try to go full conviction. You know what I mean? So Dan, for those, it's one of those ones that we both said it's rare to actually meet someone we haven't met in the industry. So this is us first meeting for the first time as well. But for listeners, you know, I always ask the question: Did you find fitness, or did fitness find you? You know, give me a little story into the background before we get into PushPress.
Good question. I think it was a little bit of both, to be honest. I probably, like most people in our space, we grew up playing sports. We grew up athletic. We grew up working out. I had a gym membership since 8th grade. Nice. And, you become an adult, you get a job, you get a career, you sit at a desk, you do nothing but work. You come home, you're tired, you watch TV, you get fat. And then at some point in life, you look at yourself and you're like, what happened to me? And you have to bring it, you want to reconnect with, like, maybe it's part of midlife crisis. I don't know, but yeah, in my 30s, I got laid off from a job. I was a computer engineer writing web apps, and got laid off. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take my severance and just go open a gym, because I had just discovered this CrossFit stuff and kind of fell in love. So yeah, it was a little bit of both. It was like a full circle type journey.
What year was that? Was that peak CrossFit euphoria?
I found CrossFit in 2008, and then in 2010 I got laid off. Like all of 2009 was like me going into work. I worked at MySpace of all places. So like, but going to work and then like just be itching to leave work to go to my CrossFit workout. And then like, once or twice a week, they'd be like, oh, last minute meeting. And then I would get so frustrated. Like, oh, come on. Like I'm going to miss my class, and get so mad. So eventually I'm just like, when they laid me off, I'm like, perfect. I'm going to go open a gym and never miss a class again. So
how was that experience? Software engineer to gym owner?
It was interesting because me and everyone I opened the gym with happened to be in the software space. So I think we approached it very differently. Like we looked at it more from like, product market fit, and like, what do consumers feel, and what does onboarding feel like? We did a lot of what traditional software people do in our gym, which at the time I think was a little bit more, I wouldn't say cutting edge, but it was different than what was happening. And then because of that, we actually built a lot of digital experience and digital stuff into the gym itself, because it was what we could do, which it's funny. I quit being an engineer to open a gym. And pretty quickly after opening the gym, I started coding PushPress and started writing all this digital experience stuff for my gym, and just became an engineer again. So
Push, your business is as old as we're the dinosaurs, right? Of the digital era. It's 10 years old, PushPress, did you say?
We've been working on it since about 2011, but our first client was in 2013. So about 11 years old. Yeah.
So, and what was give me the story behind PushPress. So you're gym owner, and then where did PushPress come from?
So it's basically that we opened the gym, we started looking for software to run our gym with. And, because we were all in the cutting edge space of, if you call it MySpace was trying to reinvent itself. So we were trying to do some cutting edge stuff. I saw the software available, and I was just like, this is not what I know can be built at this time. And I wasn't happy with it. So we just decided to roll our own and build our own. What I didn't realize when I opened the gym is I became connected with a whole bunch of gym owners through like Facebook communities and different areas of the internet. And this is right around the time when gym owners are starting to try and learn about SEO and websites and funnels and sales funnels and these types of things. So I kind of became a thought leader in the tech space, right? This is how you should think about your funnel, or this is how you want to, track your leads coming from Facebook or whatever. And so you marry those two together. Like I started building my own software. People started relying on me for advice in the tech space of the world. And then people started to realize like, oh, what you're using is not what I have. What are you using? And I just told them like, it's something you can't use because I just built it myself for me. And you put it all together. And I was like, well, I think we have to try and take a shot at building this for the world, because there's enough people who are just asking me about it. So.
And have you always been an entrepreneur? Has that always been is that from a young age or?
Yeah, looking back on it, I didn't realize how bad I was. I was very much an entrepreneur, like lemonade stands, brownie stands. I had a paper route as a kid. Even in college, it took me 8 years to graduate college because I started 3 companies during that time. But I never called myself an entrepreneur. Like I just always was just interested in trying to help people.
Yes.
But now that I look back and I've studied this a little bit more, I'm like, oh, I was classic, like ADD, entrepreneur, obsessive compulsive, the whole way from day one all the way through.
Yes. So, and we've got, of course, most listeners are from the health and fitness industry, but many entrepreneurs and inspiring entrepreneurs. I guess what's the thing that drive you to actually make those changes? Because it seems simple when you explain it, and I've shared my stories many times as well. But what was the main driver?
Changes in which way?
Well, changing to actually go create something. To go create a gym, to go create PushPress.
Oh. That's the thing is I think what I realized looking back is I've always been a creator. Okay. So all through my life, like in college, I was building a community for people who like nightclubs. When I had my first kids, I built a photo book album and photo printing service that I was the only customer of, right? But no matter what phase of my life was in, I always realized when I look back now, I was creating something to go along with it. And that's just been historically what I've always just been, pulled towards.
Yeah, I get the feeling, and of course, only speaking with you for 10 minutes, you're very solutions orientated. I mean? So, I can see that. But look, let's dive into the clients that you're supporting now. I guess what are you feeling is the biggest struggles out there in the market?
There's I liken this to a concept called chocolate and broccoli. The chocolate problem, meaning like the problem everyone's gravitated towards, is leads. And I'm sure you've heard this, like, oh, my gym just needs more leads. I need more leads. The broccoli problem is churn or members quitting.
The old leaky bucket.
Yeah, the leaky bucket. So the reason you're feeling like you need leads is because your bucket's leaking, and it's like you're always stuck at like some magic number that you're capped out at, whether it's 100 or 150 or whatever members it is, you're capped.
Yeah.
And the fastest way to outgrow that is not to add more water to the bucket, it's to plug the holes.
Yes.
And so I do think that's the biggest problem gym owners are facing today. And I'm hoping we can start to plug some holes and then start tackling another problem tomorrow.
What are you seeing in terms of retention? Like who's doing the best for you at the moment, and what advice could you give?
Yeah. So in general, across all of our clients, we're seeing at about an 8.8% churn rate per month, which is absolutely insane. Because if you take that out over a year, that means you're turning over basically your whole gym every year.
Yeah.
And what people out there are going to think is like, there's no way, because Mary and John have been a member of my gym for 14 years or whatever. But what you're missing are like all the people that have come and gone. Like it's not 100% every single person churns. It's 100% of the number that you have churned. So if you have 150, you might keep Mary Jane and 20 other people, but you've churned 170 other people throughout the year.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is kind of the biggest problem. What we saw when we looked into the data, so we actually have 10 years now, 11 years worth of data, is the number one mover of churn is attendance. And this is where I go to the chocolate and broccoli thing, because it's like, that is obvious. When I get up on stage and I do a keynote about this, and I'm like, oh, guess what? The number one thing you can do to make people stop quitting your gym, get them to show up. And that should not blow anyone's brain, but people are like, and I'm like, why? Because you're so focused on leads. And you're so focused on all this other stuff that you're letting all these people just walk right out the back door because you're not focused on them. And that's kind of the big takeaway I would give people.
No, and do you think that the paradigm, because I would actually say the paradigm shifted probably about, I would even say nearly 10 years ago, where everyone, of course, identified that this was the problem and really put some service levels in place. I think a lot of the reports, my own gyms were, if we were holding 2.5 to 2.6, we know people were going to stay for at least 9 months longer. But we've kind of, are we burying our head in the sand a little bit too much with this? Because I feel like it's something that's always just, it is the biggest issue. And I totally agree. I like the way you eloquently put that. But like, are we actually doing anything to solve it as an industry? Maybe is the question.
Yeah. So I could say this. So in 2023, I gave this as my keynote speech, and I'm relegated to a little island, a little corner of an island of this fitness world, as we were talking about earlier. But I would go around to a whole bunch of these CrossFit style conventions and talk to them. And I would say, like, here's the numbers. And what the data shows is you get someone to 8 check-ins. They go from almost 9% churn to about 5% churn. If you get someone to 12 check-ins a month, they go down to like 4.4% churn. So it's like, and 12 is not crazy. Like, let's just get people in the gym 12 times, and you've cut your churn in half. The amount, like with and then what that turns into financially, if you're running like the average numbers, is that turns into like $100,000 a year. Like, what would your gym look like if you made 100 grand a year or more? So, shit, I've already forgot the question. What was the question?
Well, I guess more the fact of what can they actually do? You know, what should we be doing more? Maybe is the bigger question.
I remember your question now. So, like, are we actually doing anything about this? So in 2023, I went around and gave the speech. At least with PushPress gyms in 2024, we've actually lowered our overall network churn rate by 1%. So, and I've only talked to 10% of the gyms. So it's like the word's getting out. People are thinking about it. It's becoming more to the forefront of people's, understanding. And and what I like about the churn thing is it's one thing, just get people to come to the gym. I don't care if at the end of class, you have to go to every member and say like, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Just get them to come back, and you're going to dramatically increase your business.
Yeah, agreed. And is it fair to say, because in my head, it's, if you're operating a smaller box in terms of service levels can be higher, you actually have more control over it, rather than a big box club. So that's where naturally the ecosystems can work, because I feel, what I'm seeing, at least being in many round tables and of course serving a lot of the big box clubs, is that, the clear proposition, big box clubs that are well capitalized, are doing actually very, very well. We're actually seeing, and maybe I haven't really seen a lot of stuff in the US, but definitely in Europe and Asia, the leisure clubs are actually coming back big time in terms of just, there's just so much to offer that they've got for a reasonably good price point. So, and I feel actually service providers could be challenged they need to focus on this retention thing a little bit more, which therefore means you got to focus on your service levels and your experience and make sure that you're adding value to their client. Is that fair?
Absolutely. These smaller gyms, like what they have to lean into are their distinct advantages, and their distinct advantages are going to be community, personalized touch, knowing your first name, celebrating life events with you. It's more of a tribe than it is, totally people agree. Are using your equipment and your facility as a commodity. So you've got to lean all the way into that and create a situation where you feel like you're quitting a family if you're quitting the gym. That's how I would totally position it. Yeah.
And I should have asked this at the top of the show, but we dive straight into it. But like in terms of what's your clients are predominantly service providers, CrossFit boxes, etc., or is it a little bit wider?
I would call them single owner operator fitness studios that are group coach led. That's kind of the big bucket of things. Yes. So we grew up out of the CrossFit space, so we have more CrossFit gyms, but we are servicing plenty of jiu-jitsu, martial arts, traditional martial arts. We have 16 historical fencing societies on us. Like, where did that come from? I don't know. We have mermaid swim schools. We have gun ranges. We have everything, really.
Yeah. And I imagine jiu-jitsu's grown a lot. Like, I feel like I see a jiu-jitsu, I don't know, what are they called? Club or dojo? Every single corner.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is in its heyday right now. It feels very much like CrossFit in the 20.
Yes.
What do you call it? 2000s?
Yeah. Okay. And then what are you most excited about in your space right now?
Just the technological breakthroughs that are happening at this point in time that are becoming available to small businesses in general. Like, this whole AI phase that's happening is going to change the game, in my opinion, for these gym owners. Yeah. And I think it's just going to take, a couple of years to start rolling out some significant feature sets around some of this AI stuff, but it's going to change the game. And like me and my team have been brainstorming all kinds of ideas. We're starting to roll some stuff out, starting to work on some stuff. And I'm very, very excited for where this can go.
What's the biggest thing you're most excited about in regards to for the members, I guess?
So, I mean, there's a lot. The thing with AI is there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. I mean, obviously for the members, like, you can do some of the obvious stuff, like an AI CX or customer service agent, right? Who can help like onboarding, offboarding, education, stuff like that in the gym. Mm-hmm. You can do AI training programs and programming methodology stuff. I think that stuff's maybe about a year out, but when the AI models get better, that will be good. You can do all kinds of AI assistant work inside the gym. So I don't know, what's a good example? Like billing, like, you can have an AI billing partner that's been programmed to work alongside the owner, who's just like, I'm just going to manage all aspects of billing. When someone's billing fails, the AI agent will reach out. It will manage the interaction between the member. It will try to resolve it for you, and it will hand it off to you if there's a problem. So there's
starts to reduce a lot of friction points, right? If we get it right.
Yeah, it will be gotten right. I 100% promise it will be gotten right, either by PushPress or another company. But this will be how all software is built from this day forward, basically.
Yeah, and then yourself and your own, because we're looking at we engaging, leaning hard into AI in terms of making it more, I guess, customizable content that already exists. So where, say you've got a video that's 11 minutes, but you want the workout to be 15, you can actually increase the workout by 15 and change the background. So, hey, I want to work out in Vegas rather than I want to work out in whatever Studio X. So we're leaning into it pretty hard in terms of that, because we're seeing the use case being quite clear. But I think for me, and I don't know if you're seeing the same, it's creating so much efficiencies in our business, which actually, if in terms of actually just being a better partner and better support, if we can take away a lot of our, just redoing code to be able to get things live, everything's so much faster. If we looked at how quickly it was for us to launch an app or a web player, we were talking about maybe 4 or 5 days. Now that's taking, half a day. So it's what improvements are you seeing in your business?
I think one thing people overlook, well, a lot of the small owners probably are using it this way, but in terms of in my world, the actual biggest AI efficiency that can be had is leveraging AI internally. So there's all of these AI tools being built, but even on top of that, like ChatGPT, if you know how to use it, can be just a monster in terms of like making you better. If you don't pay for it, I would highly recommend you just pay the $20. It's so worth it. They have like this new Canvas feature, and this is going to, by the time this goes out, this will all be dated because they're moving so fast. And then they have this OpenAI OA or O1.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
That one is basically like having an MBA and a PhD in your pocket. And if you just know, you just have to learn how to interact with it. And the results that it gets is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I've been actually using it because, of course, how it breaks down how it's actually solved the question, and then you can change how it even thinks, which I think it's just dramatically, solving big business issues. It becomes your kind of co-pilot, like literally, not to give Microsoft the cred, but it is a nice co-pilot. And
crazy to think about 2 years ago. So 4 years ago, AI was a thought, like it was barely commercialized. 2 years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, when ChatGPT came out, it was like not reliable. Like think how far this has come in such a short amount of time. And now all of the money and energy and startup space is going towards this. Like in the next year, this is gonna be a completely different landscape.
Agreed. And then as a software engineer, of course, there's a lot of talks in roundtables and stuff like that. The AI is already starting to replace junior software engineers, because especially if they're just doing very, very automated tasks. Like, do you see that as an issue for software engineers, that we're going to have high level solutions architects, all the rest of it, and then there won't be enough development for these guys to get better, or it's just going to change the way they operate, like you've seen in
this is all anytime there's a technological shift, the immediate knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, everyone's gonna lose their jobs.
Sure.
It's not going, I mean, maybe in 50 years, I don't know, but in the short term, the junior developers will just learn how to use AI. Like in college, they're just gonna be like, here's how you use AI to write code, and here's how you work with AI to make sure the code doesn't suck.
Sure.
But I've used AI to write code. You can't take the coder out of me. I still like building stuff.
I can see that.
It's actually amazing how fast it can build things. But when you build software, you're building like 100 different modules that all have to work together, that have to have the same coding style, that have, like there's a pattern to it. And it's like saying, I'm going to build a home, but I'm going to have AI build this room, and without any context of this room, AI is going to build that room, and then this room, and a bathroom, and a kitchen, and none of them work together because they're all just like AI just did it in that little workspace. So I think we're a little ways away from like AI being able to like spool up an entire workspace for an entire code base and work on the whole thing. But honestly, probably going to happen in like 10 years.
And for your space, I guess the thing is, look, try and make it as easy as possible for people to run their clubs in the back end, so they can actually affect service on the front end. Is that the goal from a technology layer? Is that way you're seeing it, or? Yeah.
I mean, in general, the way I would try to eloquently state it is, I didn't open a gym to do tech. I didn't open a gym to do accounting or bookkeeping or order frickin' Kleenex. I open a gym to work with my clients on the gym floor and make them move better or feel better or whatever, give them health improvements. So anything that falls outside of that scope, I consider fair game for us to try to do for them.
Like
either automatically or assisted, one or the other.
And then talk to me about it, in terms of decent use cases, in terms of how you're using data and how you're helping the clubs in terms of data and I guess making them make better decisions.
Yeah. So again, I think right now we're in the first inning of all of that. It's just crazy to say 11 years in, but I think we're in the first inning because right now, up until 2 years ago, even probably up until today, all data does is like show you a graph on a screen. And then it's up to the gym owner to be like, what does that even mean? Like, and what do I do with it? Right. Yeah. And, in the business world, it's like, you'll look at graphs, but then they'll bring in the data analyst who will look at it. And then they'll know how to compare it to other things and know what's right. The gym owners don't have that ability, and nor should they. No. Where we're sitting on now is like AI does present the opportunity where we don't have to give you a graph. We can just tell you, right? Yes. Your data says you are going to run out of money in 14 days. Your data, it's like, it can just tell you point blank, or your data says compared to all the other gyms in your region, that look like you, that do your same thing, you're charging 23% too little money, right? Like AI can actually analyze all this data and just give you human readable actions to do, which I think is much more insightful. I'll give you a story. A couple of years ago, I haven't watched the NFL football for you expats or whatnot. I hadn't watched NFL for a good 10 years because I was building PushPress. My team wanted to do a fantasy league. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to win the league because I think I can. I was just talking smack to them. So anyways, I joined. I did an auto draft because I didn't know any of the player names, nothing, blah, 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 blah. But what the league did is every weekend it would send me a report. And this report was clearly AI driven. And it would tell me, this running back has a really good chance against this team because all of that stuff that there's no way I could have looked at all the data and figured out. I won the league just by following that newsletter. Right? And it's just like, there's no way I could have looked at the data. I had to read it and be told what to do. And I think that's what business owners need to.
That's actually a really good analogy. I've got a story similar. So of course I'm a big rugby guy. So different to NFL, but kind of similar. And exactly the same. We actually use Chat 1.0 to do the reasoning behind all the data in terms of who's the most cohesive team and who would win the actual league. And of course it was perfect. You
tell me you bet on it. Did you bet on it?
No, I didn't. But next time it's coming around.
That's a good idea. I'm going to do that next time. I'm going to use that this weekend.
We even, me and my CFO, we actually used it just as hey, let's just have a look at, cash flow, all the rest of it, things that we can improve. What if we were 1% better at these things? And we just put it all in there, and it was just amazing. So it's just amazing how these tools just becoming actually actionable really, really quickly within seconds, right? So but I agree with you. It's more telling an operator how they can improve it rather than getting them to work out and create their own rationales.
Yeah, that's not nice. It's not reasonable nor feasible to expect any small business owner to be able to do that with data. So
no, that's great. And then to last question, Sir, and thank you for your time. I guess words of advice for gym operators operating in this environment. We all know it's pretty tough out there at the moment, especially with high interest rate. And every time I've seen a high interest rate, it's affected the fitness industry significantly. So what's your kind of 3 bits of advice?
And specific to the interest rate problems, or
just specific to the market that we're living in now?
Honestly, this is market agnostic. This is just starting a business 101 stuff that nobody told me when I started. It's fucking hard. I'm allowed to swear.
You can swear. We welcome swearing.
You're a rugby guy. Yeah. Anyways, it's fucking hard, right? Starting a business seems so easy, especially a gym where it's like the barrier to entry to open a gym is not that big. Yes. It's really hard. And what I've learned in doing business for all this time is the number one thing you have to do is stay alive. Because something in the future is going to end up becoming a tailwind for you. Yep. And you don't know what it is. Like COVID was a headwind. We didn't know that was coming. Well, for PushPress, it was a tailwind. But these things happen that you can't control that can become headwinds or tailwinds. So that's number one. Stay alive because you'll catch a tailwind eventually as long as you're positioned in the right place. Number 2 would be there's this concept of luck, which ties into tailwinds, which is basically you could wake up every day and lightning might strike and it's called dumb luck. Right. But you can go down this progression of luck to what I call manufactured luck, which is basically I've done the prerequisite work. and I continue to do the work, and I'm making the right connections, and I'm doing the right things. And sooner or later, someone I met or something I've done is going to connect dots in a way that's like, oh, I know that guy. That's Dan. You need to talk to Dan because this and this. Now that might've been lucky, but it was also like, I did all the things that made the luck happen. Right.
Totally agree. Yeah.
That creates a tailwind. Okay. So that is how you manufacture tailwinds. Yes, so you want to stay alive to create tailwinds. You create your own luck to make tailwinds. And you can create mechanisms or engineer processes in your business that create the luck, that create the tailwinds. So you can kind of take this as 3 layers of advice, but the bottom line is like, just dissect your whole business and say, like, in this area of it, onboarding, what do I want to happen? I want the member to understand what we're doing, be set up for success, and to have some type of a target that when they achieve it, they're stoked. Okay, how do I build that? How do I engineer that to happen? Right? You do that for every area of your business, and you're going to start creating your own tailwinds.
Totally agree. There was 2. Is there one more? No, just 2. Because
that was 2. Well, it's technically 3, right? Like stay alive.
Okay, fair. I'll give it to you. Yeah. And then I've got to ask you, who inspires you? Who would you say is a role model for you?
A big role model for me is Jeff Bezos.
Okay.
I've pretty much read all the books there.
Nice. His letters are amazing. I think every single entrepreneur needs to read those early letters, the Bezos letters. Yep.
I haven't read any of Buffett's letters yet, but those are next on my list. Read Warren Buffett. Okay. He's big on the durability piece. And there's a guy named Naval Ravikant who's in the VC worlds. His book was profoundly impactful, to me, called How to Get Rich Without Being Lucky. He's also made me realize that I think the best entrepreneurs are philosophers. So I've turned myself into like as much of a philosopher as I can.
I like that. One thing I'm just thinking about the Bezos letters is it's because what I find is sometimes getting advice from people that have already been successful, they've actually changed their habits to their successful habits rather than how they got successful in the first place. And what I like about Bezos is how he was, you're looking at Bezos when he was just selling books, writing these letters. And I think that was just amazing to see how visionary he was, even when the company didn't look like that at all.
Yeah, if you read his biography, it's really interesting because he was brought up in a certain type of elementary school that focused on expression through words over expression through every other form. So he actually grew up in a literary we write to express express things. And so he carried that with him his whole life. Like, no, I want you to write it. Don't show me on a slideshow. Don't talk to me about it. Take the time to write it. Yeah. So,
and that's probably where the one pages came from as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They all read the one pages. Yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how do people connect with you?
Pushpress.com/Dan kind of has all my information, links to my social media, stuff like that. Probably the easiest way, or you can go on Instagram. My handle is Danielson @Danielson, like the Karate Kid guy. I put out a reel pretty much every day with some type of business tip or advice, things like that I've learned along the way.
I recommend everyone follows it. Dan, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining the Wexer podcast.
Absolutely. It's fun. Thank you.
Cheers, Dan. Bye. Thanks.